I'm now pleased and honored to introduce the title sponsor of our 79th Annual Conference of Mayors, Mr. Daryl Dulaney, Chief Executive Officer of Siemens Industry, Inc. Mr. Dulaney oversees all business activity of the company's industry sector in the U.S. Mr. Dulaney is a board member of the Siemens Foundation, which provides more than $7 million annually in financial support towards science, technology, engineering, and math education initiatives. Now, I present to you Mr. Daryl Dulaney.
Well, thank you, Mayor Couts. I appreciate that. I thought today I would open with a song, but I'm afraid that I would pale in comparison to what we heard earlier. But I thought also I'm really impressed that the dedication of this group that shows up here for this convention over the weekend when the U.S. Open is so close by. But I guess it's just us corporate guys that play golf. Of course, when we're not asking for things we don't want to pay for, the governor. You know, there's no question that this is an extraordinary and challenging time to be a mayor of a U.S. city. You know, on the one hand, city budgets are as tight as they've ever been. The global recession has cut off much of your tax base, and federal and state budget cuts aren't making anything any easier. And unlike the federal government, you don't have the luxury of passing a budget with a deficit, pushing off the harder decisions perhaps to an easier time. On the other hand, cities have never been in more need of investments in their futures. There are a lot of reasons for that. Across the country, infrastructure is degraded and getting worse. And that's a story that we all know is already several decades old. We're already seeing a huge influx of people moving into urban centers, forcing cities to accommodate a lot more people than their infrastructure was really built to support. That too is a problem that's getting worse. On a global scale, demographers believe that by 2050, 6.2 billion people will live in cities, nearly as many as all the people that are alive in the world today. Already, 84% of U.S. residents live in metropolitan areas, and that number too is expected to grow. As that happens, infrastructure that even now is unsustainable will come to its breaking point. So if cities can't make investments in new infrastructure to cope with these issues, you and the future mayors of America are going to find themselves dealing with really unacceptable consequences. It'll mean brownouts and blackouts as electricity demand runs up against an antiquated grid. It will mean a surge in carbon emissions, and at a time when our planet needs us to reduce them. It will mean water shortages, overcrowded emergency rooms, and an overcrowded healthcare system. You know, those are big issues. But it's not just about quality of life. It's about the quality of local economies. Cities with infrastructure and aging infrastructure are going to find themselves at a competitive disadvantage when it comes to attracting new jobs and new businesses. So it's no question that cities are facing tremendous challenges right now. And it's no question that nobody understands that better than you. A couple of years ago, Siemens did a survey with the Conference of Mayors that asked 140 cities to describe the biggest issues they were facing. About 60% identified the lack of funding to meet infrastructure needs as a serious challenge. And just yesterday, we announced the results of another survey with the conference, this time on your priorities for clean energy solutions. Again, you identified financial constraints as the most significant challenge to improving energy efficiency and conservation and developing new renewable energy supplies. But knowing this reality and being able to confront it are two very different things. There isn't a mayor in this room who doesn't appreciate the sheer magnitude of the challenges his or her city faces over the coming generation. The question isn't what is about to happen, it's what to do about it. Because at the same time that cities need to be making larger investments in their futures, larger than ever before, many, if not most, are cash-strapped as they've ever been. Sounds like an insurmountable problem. But at Siemens, we don't believe it is. We have a strong sense of how cities can overcome these challenges, that understanding grows out of a very long history working with cities. We're 164 years old and have operations in 190 countries. We're the company that laid the first transatlantic cable. We invented the first electric train. We invented the first traffic light. We put the first electric lights into cities. We're number one in the US in the light rail market, for example. We build the most efficient gas turbines in the world. We're a leader in helping transport electricity across long distances in an environmentally friendly way. We're a worldwide leader in smart buildings and smart grid technologies. And we've installed roughly 1/3 of all hospital imaging equipment in the world. We've geared our business around megatrends that we believe will define the next generation and the next century, from urbanization to climate change, from aging populations to infrastructure. We've been focusing our R&D and our service on the areas of greatest need and greatest opportunity for cities around the world. Our business has long been focused on 3 sectors: energy, industry, and healthcare. This year, we've added a 4th area of global focus: infrastructure and cities. That's because we recognize that the very customers who most needed these products and services, the cities you represent, were the least able to make the upfront investments they needed. I need to grab a bit of water. Us corporate guys, we do go on. So we've applied our innovation to help cities become more competitive from an infrastructure standpoint, and we figured out ways to help them pay for it. One such concept, of course, is, so many of you have heard of it, we've called performance contracting. But those of you that aren't familiar, let me give you an example. In 2009, the city of Houston decided it wanted to dramatically reduce its energy consumption, both to reduce carbon emission and, of course, to save money. The city's transportation department began that effort with a focus on the city's traffic light system. So we turned to our engineers and asked them to tell us how much money the city of Houston would save if we replaced every single one of their traffic lights with LEDs. The answer was that using LEDs would reduce energy costs by $19.5 million because of their longevity, efficiency, and reduced operating costs. The total net savings of the project would be more than $7 million for the city of Houston the first decade, but the upfront investment needed would be $12.4 million. Well, those are savings that any city would be eager to realize, but the $12.4 million upfront investment, of course, was daunting for Houston, as it would be for a lot of you. So here's how we helped. We told Houston they wouldn't have to pay a penny of their upfront investment. Siemens would cover it. We'd make the initial investment, and the city would pay us back out of the savings realized. But on top of that, we contractually guaranteed the savings and committed to paying for any shortfall. We signed a 30-year service agreement with the city, ensuring that Siemens would always be there for the maintenance and operation wherever and whenever needed. In a single year, we modernized the city's nearly 2,400 traffic lights and pedestrian signals. We replaced more than 40,000 incandescent light bulbs with LEDs, and we saved the city nearly 9.8 million kilowatt hours of electricity. We're also working with Houston on a modernization of 55 of their municipal buildings under the same kind of agreement. When it's completed, Houston will emit 8.4 million fewer pounds of CO2 into the atmosphere than they do today. And performance contracting is just one way to finance a city's energy efficiency and upgrade infrastructure. There are other ways to structure a partnership that allow a city to make critical investments even when they're low on capital. The point is, as challenging as these times are, the answers to the problems that cities face are largely here. The technology is largely here, and methods of getting this done, even without upfront capital, have been developed and put to work successfully. All of this is to say that while we understand that your budgets are constrained, we believe your choices don't have to be. We believe the future prosperity of this country depends on the present success of our cities. And we trust your leadership, which we need today more than ever before. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your conference.